This starts on page 59. I am aware that some of your classes are not on page 59. I will make note of that once we get to that page. Page 59, becoming a change agent. I once asked a group of teenagers, "Who are your role models?" One girl mentioned her mother, another kid talked about his brother. One guy was noticeably silent. I asked him who he admired. He said quietly, "I don't have a role model." All he wanted to do was make sure he didn't turn out like people who should have been his role models. Unfortunately, this is the case with many teens. They come from messed up families and may not have anyone to pattern their lives after. The scary thing is that bad habits such as abuse, alcoholism, and welfare dependency are often passed down from parents to kids, and as a result, dysfunctional families keep repeating themselves. Sometimes these problems go back for generations. You may come from a long line of alcohol or drug abusers. You may come from a long line of dependency on welfare. Perhaps no one in your family has ever graduated from college or even high school. The good news is that you can stop the cycle because you are proactive. You can stop these bad habits and circumstances from being passed on. You can become a change agent and pass on good habits to future generations, starting with your own kids. A tenacious girl named Hilda shared with me how she has become her family's change agent. Education wasn't a priority in her home. There were too many other things to worry about. Says Hilda, "My mom worked in a sewing factory for very little money, and my father worked for slightly over minimum wage. I would hear them arguing over the money and how they were going to pay the rent. The highest grade my parents went to in school was sixth grade." As a young girl, Hilda vividly remembers her dad being unable to help her with her homework because he couldn't read English. This was hard on her, and she could see the consequences of the lack of education. When Hilda was in junior high, her family moved from California back to Mexico. Hilda soon realized that there were limited education opportunities for her there, so she asked if she could move back into the States to live with her aunt. For the next several years, Hilda made great sacrifices to stay in school. "It was hard to be in a crowded room with my cousin," she says, "and have to share a bed and work to pay the rent as well as going to school, but it was worth it. Even though I had a kid and got married in high school, I kept going to school and working toward finishing my education. I wanted to prove to my dad that no matter what, he was wrong." When he was wrong when he said then no one in our family could become a professional. Hilda will soon be graduating with a university degree in finance. She wants her educational values to be passed on to her kids. Today, every time I can, when I'm not in school, I sit on the sofa and I read to my son. I am teaching him how to speak English and Spanish. I'm trying to save money for his education. One day, he will need help with his homework, and I will be there to help him. I interviewed another 16-year-old kid named Shane from the Midwest, who's also becoming a change agent in his family. Shane lives with his parents and two siblings in the projects, a low income section of town. Although his parents are still together, they're consistently fighting and accusing each other of having affairs. His dad drives a truck and is never home. His mom smokes weed with his 12-year-old sister. His older brother failed 2 years of high school and finally dropped out. At one point, Shane had lost hope. Just when he thought he'd hit rock bottom, he got involved in a character development class at school that taught the 7 habits. And he began to see that there were things he could do to seize control of his life and create a future for himself. Fortunately, Shane's grandfather owned an upstairs apartment where Shane's family lived, so Shane paid him $100 a month for rent. He moved to the apartment. He now has his own sanctuary and is able to block out everything he doesn't want to be part of on the floor below. Says Shane, "Things have gotten better now. I treat myself better and I show myself respect. My family doesn't have very much respect for themselves. Although nobody in the family has ever gone to college, I've been accepted to 3 different universities. Everything I do now is for my future. My future is going to be different, and I know I won't sit down with my 12-year-old daughter and smoke weed." You have the power within you to rise above whatever may have been passed down to you. You may not have the option of moving upstairs to escape from it all as Shane did, but you can figuratively move upstairs in your mind. No matter how bad your predicament is, you can change, become a change agent, and create a new life for yourself and whatever may follow. Growing your proactive muscles. The following poem is a great summary of what it means to take responsibility for one's life and how a person can gradually move from a reactive to a proactive mind frame. Autobiography in 5 short chapters. From There's a Hole in My Sidewalk by Portia Nelson. 1. I walk down the street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I fall in. I'm lost. I'm helpless. It isn't my fault. It takes forever to find a way out. Chapter 2. I walk down the same street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I pretend I don't see it. I fall in again. I can't believe I'm in the same place, but it isn't my fault. It still takes a long time to get out. Chapter 3. I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I see it there. I still fall in. It's habit. My eyes are open. I know where I am. It is my fault. I get out immediately. Chapter 4. I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I walk around it. Chapter 5. I walk down another street. You too can take responsibility for your life and stay away from potholes by flexing your proactive muscles. It's a breakthrough habit that will save your you know what more often than you can imagine. Can do. Being proactive really means 2 things. First, you take responsibility for your life. Second, you have a can do attitude. Can do is very different from no can do. Just take a peek. Can do people. Take the initiative to make it happen. No can do people. Wait for something to happen to them. Can do people. Think about solutions and options. No can do people. Think about problems and barriers. Can do people. Act. No can do people are acted upon. If you think can do and you're creative and persistent, it's amazing what you can accomplish. During college, I remember being told that to fulfill my language requirement, I would have to take a class that I had no interest in and was meaningless to me. Instead of taking this class, however, I decided to create my own. So I put together a list of books I would read and the assignments I would do and found a teacher to sponsor me, and then went to the dean of the school and presented my case. He bought into my idea and I completed my language requirement by taking my self-built course. American aviator Eleanor Smith once said, It has long since come to my attention that people of accomplishment rarely sat back and let things happen to them. They went out and happened to things. It's so true. To reach your goals in life, you must seize the initiative. If you're feeling bad about not being asked out on dates, don't just sit around and sulk. Do something about it. Find ways to meet people. Be friendly and try smiling a lot. Ask them out. They may not know how great you are. This is page 64 if you were in that group that made it to page 64. Don't wait for that perfect job to fall in your lap. Go after it. Be bold. Send out your resume. Network with people you admire. Gain experience by volunteering to work for free. If you're at a store and need assistance, don't wait for the salesperson to find you. You find them. Some people mistake can do for being pushy, aggressive, or obnoxious. Wrong. Can do is courageous, persistent, and smart. Others think can do people stretch the rules and make their own laws. Not so. Can do thinkers are creative, enterprising, and extremely resourceful. Pia, a friend of mine, shared the following story. It took place a long time ago, but the principle of can do is the same. I was a young journalist in a big city in Europe, working full-time as a reporter for the United Press International. I was inexperienced and always nervous that I wouldn't be able to live up to the expectations of a tough and much older male press crew. The Beatles were coming to town, and to my amazement, I was appointed to cover their stay. My editor didn't know how big they were. They were the hottest thing in Europe in those days. Girls fainted by the hundreds just by their presence. And here I was going to cover their press conference. The press conference was exciting and I was elated to be there, but I realized that everyone would have the same story. I needed something more, something meaty, something that really would make front page. One by one, all the experienced reporters went back to their papers to meet at papers to report and the went back to their papers to report and the Beatles went up to their rooms. I stayed behind. I got to figure out a way to get these guys, I thought, and there's no time to lose. I walked to the hotel lobby, picked up the house phone, and dialed the penthouse. I guessed they would be staying there. Their manager answered, "This is Pia Jensen from the United Press International. I would like to come talk to the Beatles," I said confidently. What did I have to lose? To my amazement, he said, "Come on up." Trembling and feeling like I had hit the jackpot, I entered the elevator and went up to the royal suites of the hotel. I was led into an area as big as an entire floor, and there they all sat Ringo, Paul, John, and George. I gulped down my nervousness and inexperience and tried to act like a world class reporter. I spent the next 2 hours laughing, listening, talking, writing, and having the best time of my life. They treated me royally and gave me all the attention in the world. My story was splashed on the front page of the leading newspaper in the country the next morning. And my more extended interviews with each of the Beatles appeared as a feature in most of the newspapers of the world within the next few days. When the Rolling Stones came to town after that, guess who they sent? Me, a young female, inexperienced reporter. I used the same approach with them, and it worked again. I soon realized that I could accomplish by being pleasantly persistent. A pattern was set in my mind, and I was convinced anything was possible. With this approach, I usually got the best story, and my news career took on a new dimension. George Bernard Shaw, the English playwright, knew all about can do. Listen to how he said it. People are always blaming their circumstances for what they are. I don't believe in circumstances. The people who get on in this world are the people who get up and look for circumstances they want. And if they can't find them, make them. Pay attention to how Denise was able to create the circumstances she wanted. I know it's strange for a teenager to want to work at a library, but I really wanted the job more than I had ever wanted anything. But they weren't hiring. I go to the library every day and read, hang out with my friends, and just get away from home. What better place to work than some place I already hung out at? Although I didn't have a job there, I got to know the office staff and I volunteered for special events and pretty soon I was one of the regulars. It paid off. When they finally had an opening, I was their first choice. And I found one of the best jobs I ever had. Just push pause. So when someone is rude to you, where do you get the power to resist being rude back? For starters, just push pause. Yep, just reach up, push the pause button on your life, just as you would on a remote control. If I remember right, the pause button is found somewhere in the middle of your forehead. Sometimes life is moving so fast that we instantly react to everything out of the sheer habit. If you can learn to pause, get control, and think about how you want to respond, you'll make smarter decisions. Yes, your childhood, your parents, your genes, your environment influence you to act in certain ways, but they can't make you do anything. Your life is not predetermined and you are free to choose. While your life is on pause, open your toolbox, the one that you were born with, and use your four human tools to help you decide what to do. Animals don't have these tools, and that's why you're smarter than your dog. Those tools are self awareness, consciousness, imagination, and willpower. You might want to call them your power tools. Self awareness. I can stand apart from myself and observe my thoughts and actions. Conscience. I can listen to my inner voice to know right from wrong. Imagination. I can envision new possibilities. And willpower. I have the power to choose. Let's illustrate these tools by imagining a teen named Rosa and her dog, Woof, as they go for a walk. Here, boy, let's go outside, says Rosa, as Woof leaps up and down, wagging his tail. It's been a rough week for Rosa. Not only has she just broken up with her boyfriend, Eric, but she and her mom are barely on speaking terms. As she strolls down the sidewalk, Rosa begins thinking about the past week. You know what? She said. She muses to herself. Breaking up with Eric has really been tough on me. It's probably why I've been so rude to mom and taking out all my frustrations on her. You see what Rosa's doing? She's standing apart from herself and evaluating and measuring her actions. This process is called self awareness. It's a tool that is native to all humanoids. By using her self awareness, Rosa is able to recognize that she's allowing her breakup with Eric to affect her relationship with her mom. This observation is the first step in changing the way she has been treating her mother. Meanwhile, Wolf sees a cat up ahead and instinctively takes off in a frenzy after it. Although Wolf is a loyal dog, he is completely unaware of himself. He doesn't even know that he is a dog. He is incapable of standing apart from himself and saying, You know what? Ever since Susie, his dog friend next door, moved, I've been taking out my anger on all the neighborhood cats. As she continues her stroll, Rosa's thoughts begin to wander. She can hardly wait for the school concert tomorrow, when she will be performing a solo. Music is her life. Rosa imagines herself singing at the concert. She sees herself dazzling the audience, then bowing to receive a rousing standing ovation from all of her friends and teachers, and of course, all the cute guys. In this scene, Rosa is usually another one of her human tools, imagination. It is a remarkable gift. It allows us to escape our present circumstances and create new possibilities in our heads. It gives us a chance to visualize our futures and dream up what we would like to become. While Rosa is imagining visions of grandeur, Wolf is busily digging up the earth trying to get at a worm. Wolf's imagination is about as alive as a rock. Zilch. He can't think beyond the moment. He can't envision two possibilities. Can you imagine Wolf thinking, Someday I'm going to have my own big dog dream house, and with a revolving door and a large bay window? Suddenly, Rosa feels a vibration in her pocket. She gets a text from her new friend Taylor. Hi, what you doing? Hey, taking Wolf for a walk, replies Rosa. Just then she gets another message. I heard about what happened with you and Eric. Major bummer. Rosa is bothered by Taylor's reference to Eric. It's none of her business. Although she's tempted to be curt with Taylor, she knows Taylor's just trying to get to know her better and doesn't mean any harm. Rosa feels that being warm and friendly is the right thing to do. Yeah, breaking up's rough. Anyway, what's up with you? Rosa has just used her human tool called conscience. A conscience is an inner voice that will always teach us right from wrong. Each of us has a conscience, and it will either grow or shrink depending upon whether or not we follow its cues. Meanwhile, Wolf is relieving himself on Mr. Newman's newly painted white picket fence. Wolf has absolutely no moral sense of right and wrong. After all, he is just a dog. Dogs will do whatever their instincts compel them to do. Rosa's walk with Wolf comes to an end. As she opens the front door to her house, she hears her mom yell from the other room, Rosa, where you've been? I called you a dozen times. Rosa's already made up her mind not to lose her cool with her mom, so despite wanting to yell back, Get out of my face, she responds calmly. Just out for a walk with the dog, Mom. Woof woof, come back here, screams Rosa as Wolf darts out the open door to chase the mailman. While Rosa is using her fourth human tool of willpower to control her anger, Wolf, who has been told not to chase the mailman, is overcome by his instincts. Willpower is the power to act. It always it says that we have the power to choose, to control our emotions, and to overcome our habits and instincts. As you can see in the above example, we either use or fail to use our four human tools every single day. The more we use them, the stronger they become, and the more power we have to be proactive. However, if we fail to use them, we tend to react by instinct like a dog and not act by choice like a human. Human tools in action. Demel Reed once told me how his proactive response to a family crisis changed his life forever. Demel was raised in one of the East Oakland's roughest neighborhoods. The fourth in a family of seven kids, no one in the Reed family had ever graduated from high school before, and Demel wasn't about to be the first. He was unsure about his future. His family was struggling. His street was filled with gangs and drug dealers. Could he even ever get out? While in the house, on a still summer night before his senior year, Dumel heard a series of gunshots. It's an everyday thing to hear gunshots, and I didn't pay any mind, said Dumel. Suddenly, one of his friends, who'd been shot in the leg, burst through the door and began hollering that Dumel's little brother Kevin had been shot and killed by a drive-by shooting. I was upset and I was angry and I was hurt and I was lost that I had lost somebody I ain't never going to see again in my life, Jamel told me. He was only 13 years old and he was shot over a petty little street scuffle. I can't explain how life went after that. It was just straight downhill for the whole family. Dermel's knee jerk reaction was to kill the murderer. It felt like the only real way he could pay back his dead brother. The police were still trying to figure out who did it, but Dermel knew. On a muggy August night, a few weeks after Kevin's death, Demel got hold of a 38 caliber revolver and went out to the streets to get revenge on Tony Fat Tone Davis, the crack dealer who had killed his brother. It was dark. Davis and his friends couldn't see me. There he was sitting, talking, laughing, having fun, and here I am within 50 feet of him, crouched behind a car with a loaded gun. I was sitting there thinking, I could just pull this little trigger and kill the guy who killed my brother. Big decision. At this point, Dermel pushed pause and caught hold of himself. Using his imagination, he thought about the past and his future. I thought about my life in a matter of seconds. I weighed my options. I weighed the chances of me escaping, not getting caught. The police trying to figure out who I was. I thought about the times Kevin would come watch me play football. He always told me I was going to be a pro football player. I thought about my future, about going to college, about what I wanted to make my life. Pausing, Dermel listened to his conscience. I'm holding a gun, I'm shaking, and I think the good side of me told me to get up and go home and go to school. If I took revenge, I'd be throwing away my future. I'd be no better than the guy who shot my brother. Using raw willpower, Demel, instead of giving into his anger and throwing his life away, got up, walked home, and vowed that he would finish college for his beloved dead brother. 9 months later, Dermel had made the honor roll and was graduating from high school. People in his school couldn't believe it. 5 years later, he'd becoming a college football star and a college graduate, the first in his family. Like Dermel, each of us face an extraordinary challenge or two along the way, and we could choose whether to rise to that challenge or to be conquered by them. Elaine Maxwell sums up the entire matter quite well. Whether I fail or succeed shall be no man's doing but my own. I am the force. I can clear any obstacle before me, or I can be lost in the maze. My choice, my responsibility, win or lose, only I hold the key to my destiny. It's kind of like the old Volkswagen commercials. On the road of life, there are passengers and there are drivers. Drivers wanted. So let me ask you, are you in the driver's seat of your life or are you merely a passenger? Are you conducting your symphony or simply being played? Are you acting like a can of soda pop or a bottle of water? After all, that's been said and done. The choice is yours.